Здравствуйте. С сегодняшнего дня можно считать наш Всемирный фестиваль.
Since today, we can consider this festival open, and these days Sochi welcomes more than 30,000 people from 188 countries. They have their own history, their own projects, and their own ideas and expectations. And I believe that every single one of them is going to share his views, and now I'll give you the floor. First of all, greetings to you all. I have seen some of you on stage today. You have a very interesting destiny. You're young people, but you have quite a story to tell because you've managed to realize your dreams with the use for yourself and for other people. And it always turns out this way when you work and you help others. It always comes back around. It always helps you. It elevates you, it develops you, it makes you more successful and more prosperous. And new prospects open for you. First of all, I would like to welcome you here, and I hope that you're going to have a great time in Russia, in Sochi, that you are going to meet the same kind of interesting people. You will see and you will hear about their life, what they are achieving, what they are proposing. You would be able to compare it with your own capabilities and your own plans. And I would like you to come up with new ideas which would allow you to move forward. Once again, thank you for coming here, and I hope that once you leave here, you will have an additional baggage of knowledge and experience with Russia, because we have a rich culture, first of all. Our rich culture, religion, traditions. We are not even sure how many people live here. Some people say that there are 160 nationalities. Some people believe 190. So this is a melting pot of religions and cultures, and they live together in one country. There are many countries where people of different nationalities live, speaking different languages, and we have representatives of such countries today with us. So Russia, in that sense, is not unique, but there's a unique component to it. Our country has always been very tolerant to other cultures, other languages, and other religions. It was built as a multinational state, and at the core of it was the respect to the neighbors, to other nations, to other peoples, cultures and religions. That was one of the building blocks of the Russian state. And I believe that now that you're here in Sochi, you can hear and feel the diversity, and it will bring you positive emotions. And then you would come up with new contacts and new ties, which would help you to move forward and to develop further. And then you would attain new goals in life. That's it. Thank you very much. I would use my functions as a moderator. Now I would give the floor to Afroz Shah. He's from India, a young lawyer and environmentalist.
First of all, very good evening, President Putin. It's a pleasure and honor to be here with you. I work in a sector which is long forgotten in my country, picking up garbage from the ocean. Picking up garbage from the ocean. Mr. President, we are all aware that marine litter is like a big problem all over the globe. And I, as an individual, I needed to react to it. I didn't know how to react because I work as a lawyer at the court in India. We have seen laws in motion, policies in motion, regulations in motion, and I as a lawyer felt there are too many of them all around us. What was required was ground action. The enforcement seems to be very poor, at least in my country. So I said I'm going to use my two hands to the best use. What a government policy would tell you to do, or what a law would tell you to do, or what a court order would tell you to do, I started doing before they could. So I am a strong proponent that if we young people or people who are at the ground level start protecting the environment and the ocean as it should be, I think we'll have a better and healthier ocean. What we do is, in a participative democracy, we do two things. We vote, we pay our taxes. And after that, we wait for our governments to react. We want the governments to react, saying that protection of the environment is the job of the government, or a court will order in India if the government is not doing it. But I feel reverse. We have littered. I am responsible for it. The muck which you see on the planet Earth, it's my doing. And I am a firm believer of what my great leader Mahatma Gandhi said. He was very clear. You don't need an NGO, you don't need a bank account, you can be the change yourself. So the idea is, so from bottom to top the approach should be that individuals don't wait for policies to come in, regulations to come in, the laws to take effect. The laws, policies, regulations will supplement you, will help you to push through among the masses. But individuals who have littered our planet, who have thrown plastic into the ocean, must be equally responsible to protect the environment. And that's what the work I do in Mumbai, India, and throughout India, cleaning up lakes, rivers, ocean. It's growing into a mass movement now, and I'm liking it because there's a whole what you call a sense of belonging which we have lost to the planet. Our homes are our homes, our cars are our cars, our assets are our own assets, but when it comes to environment, we just type on Facebook and Twitter. We say there's a problem, but we don't know how to react to it. The solution actually lies in that. Everyone must use the hand. I always tell people, you have 168 hours in a week. 2 hours you must connect to the environment. To connect in the sense that you gain back sense of belonging which you have lost. The fact that we are throwing plastic or litter either in the landfill or the ocean is indicative of the mindset which we have. That this is not mine. My house will be clear. If I was told that if you have to sleep on a bed full of plastic, you would be horrified. You'd make sure that everything is cleaned up. Now that approach you don't have to your surrounding, your neighborhood, your ocean, your forest, or your mountains. And by cleaning the ocean, we are working precisely that. Cleaning of ocean, beach, forest. Mr. President, is just a consequence according to me. What we are working is on the mindset of heart and mind of people. Law will work on a platform, and then individuals will work on a platform, and eventually they will merge someday, where people will say, yes, we respect the law, we obey the law, we see it being enforced, and before that I put it on myself of enforcing it. So this is my take on environment, which I'm working very hard in Mumbai. I hope someday I'll see a fitter ocean. You know, if you come to Mumbai, I can't even put my hand into my ocean. I live in a coastal belt. I've seen as a child, you know, I've been in that water. I can't now put it in my hand because there's a danger I can get some disease. Now to reverse it, I feel people have, on the ground level, will have to get involved. People who are throwing plastic, litter, solid garbage, liquid garbage, they will have to come on board and understand that this is not only the job of the government. President and Prime Minister's job is not only that. They'll have other things to look at. But the individuals will have to get connected there and say, we are a community, I have a sense of belonging, and work hard for it. So this is what goes through my mind when I work in Mumbai, India. And hopefully with the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, backing me up there, you know, it's growing into a moment, I'm loving it. I want my whole country to be clean, I want the oceans of the world to be clean and healthy, and I'm working for that. Thank you, President Putin, for giving me an opportunity to be here. But I must thank the organizers as well. They've been brilliant. I've been here for 3 days. I have never seen such zeal and energy, you know, which I see here. And hopefully I'll take lots of it back, you know. In fact, I always tell people of these youngsters are our leaders, and we must take it from them, and they must lead on instead of we leading them on. Thank you very much.
Во-первых, вы наверняка знаете, что у нас с Индией.
First of all, you're well aware that over the course of decades, we have built a special kind of relationship with India, a very friendly kind of relationships. And I have kind relationships with the Prime Minister of India, and I'm sure that he's very much concerned with resolving environmental issues, so he will be an ally to you. But this problem is aggravating, and it's not so easy to resolve as it turns out. Because environmental problems can be resolved through transfer to more green technologies, but this is not that easy, but that would require more investment related to this kind of technologies. And not all the countries, especially countries with developing economy, do possess such resources. That was the first thing. And the second thing is that in order to shift toward more modern technologies, we have to, unfortunately, make the manufacturers and producers shift to those technologies. And what does it translate into? First of all, modern technologies see people being out of labor, and we need to think about what to do with those people now that they are out of job. And in any case, this deflects the resources while we introduce those new technologies. And as a rule, the representatives of the industry say that this creates an additional burden for them. And should any economic complexities arise, this burden is very hard to bear. So a government of any country has to balance between those, as one might seem, contradictory directions. But the end game will see progress triumph and modern technologies too, and this would help to make our labor more productive and to create a better environment for us. But how did you create it? Did you create a company or something to rid the ocean of litter?
No, not at all. I have not created a company. But what I have done was what my leaders, people like Mahatma Gandhi, did it. You know, it was purely voluntary action. No NGO, no company, no bank account. Purely people coming every week. And it's based on pure love for your environment and love for human being. I strongly believe we have lost touch on that sector, where too much reliance is placed on formal sittings of parliament and law at times. I think if we get the connect right between human beings and connect with the environment, it works. So it was a purely voluntary action. I go to schools, colleges, I initiate cleanups, and I not only do it as a citizen, President Putin, I do it. I get the plastic manufacturer also involved, those who are manufacturing those packaging, because the problem must also come on their head. That it's a big problem of plastic in ocean. We'll have more plastic than fishes by 2050. That's the prediction.
Мы с вами знаем, да, поскольку вы этим занимаетесь.
But we are aware, as you are dealing with this issue, and many people in our country and all over the globe know that this is a major issue, the plastic in the ocean. Those plastic bottles in the Pacific Ocean, they now constitute the whole islands of plastic. And they even change the temperature of the ocean and create real ecological issues on a global scale. This is indeed a major issue, which would require a solution on a legal level, on the country scale, regional scale, or global scale. So we might create some incentives to clean up the ocean. This is indeed a very serious question, and you might use not only this call of your heart, but your professional knowledge as a lawyer. And yesterday, I welcomed the representative of the Indian Parliament, who was present in St. Petersburg for the IPU. And now, Gamal, the floor is yours. He is a young doctor from Indonesia. And I've seen you on stage.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. President. So it is a great honor for me to come to here. This morning I called my father and mother. I said that I will meet you. He's very happy. So I'm a medical doctor. I finished my bachelor degree last year. But in my bachelor degree, I started company and foundation that we focus to open doors to access for poor people. So we develop a lot of innovation. Our vision is open doors to access. First, when we start the company, we develop micro insurance. So what we have done is we use garbage to help people get health access. So in our company, people pay with the garbage, and then they can get health insurance. They can operation, hospitalized, get medication, drugs, anything, only pay with the garbage every month. With this concept, we can solve two problems at the same time. So with this concept, poor people, previously they think garbage is unused, health is expensive. But after I come to community, I said, don't worry, now you can come to our clinic free, but pay with the garbage every month. So this concept is sustainable and financing and can help poor people to get health access. And then the next innovation we do is we have a vision, how I can help a lot of people to get health financing. So we develop platform, website. If poor people, they need money for operation, they just upload in the website and then people will donate. We start it and it's very simple using the power of volunteerism, social media and digital. And the next innovation that we create is we call Home Medica. So I have a dream. How if people from, I live in Malang City, maybe people from Bali, Jakarta, in Indonesia, they sick, I can send medical doctor to the home directly. So we develop platform, mobile apps, website. If your neighborhood sick, you just open or download our application, choose the province medical doctor, and then you order, the medical doctor will come to the home. Poor people get it free, but rich people pay for it. So with all of this innovation, we believe in one mission: health is fundamental human right. So we want to give healthcare access for everyone in the world. Thank you for the time.
Да. Ну, вы занимаетесь одним из важнейших направлений.
You were working on one of the most important and the most noble causes, and now you have real results of your work. And this is a mission, not even a profession. So I have always respected your profession. And in modern world, medicine, apart from the humanitarian component, has also an economic element to it. As a person who has health issues, finds it hard to tackle the global knowledge which would be required to develop modern economy. And he's deprived of the opportunity to be a full-fledged worker, because health has a humanitarian component to it, but also an economic component to it. And one of the most important areas which we need to invest in is, of course, healthcare and education, because it's very hard to distinguish between the two. It's hard to tell which one is more important, because life is priceless. So I believe that healthcare is superior to all the other areas. As for free medical help, of course, we need to help people. But from the point of view of organizing healthcare itself, we need to be alert, because we need to understand, and the person has to be responsible for his or her own health. So we need to think as to where the state has to get engaged, in what sort of sectors, and to what end the government should provide medical help for free. Maybe some type of co-financing would be appropriate here. I'm not going to give some specific areas, but as for the very basis for healthcare, and this is a very important sector, and you know, as in many countries, for example, in the US, there are still disputes around organizing healthcare system. Whether the states should pay in full for medical insurance, or is it not obligatory for whom medical insurances should be financed? So we need to organize the system in that way so that every human being would have access to healthcare and medical services. And we need to unite the efforts, for example, with your colleague from India, because he's a lawyer and is dealing with economy, and together with medical specialists, you might close your ranks, and what you do, your cause, is very respectful. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to give the floor to Artyom Ganov. He's a Russian scientist, and Forbes included him into the list of 50 people who changed the world, and we are very proud of him. And we've recently met. Yes, you have a great memory. You've met such a great amount of people, and you still remember. I left Russia at the end of 1998 because there were no prospects for a scientist, and for me in particular. I obtained a PhD in the UK, then I worked there, and in Switzerland. In the US, I became a professor, and then I achieved the highest level of my professional development. I believed that I would spend my whole life living in the West, and the West was kind to me. But then I had an opportunity to start working in Russia with the grants, and I started to come for 4 months a year to Russia, and I really liked it so much that I decided to move to Russia full-time and to intertwine my destiny with the destiny of my country. And now I live in Moscow. I have 3 children, and the 4th is on the way, and I want to have 6 children and to raise 6 children. As to what my wife thinks about that, that's a whole other matter. I like living in Russia, working in Russia. I like raising my children here. We have great education, a wonderful life, beautiful cities. I guess it is all changing for the better. I really like the students here, the young people who want to work in science. They're very energetic, and there are some very unique people among them. And in my case, we had some great opportunities to be engaged in science. And together with my young colleagues, we've opened up new prospects. And before that, I have not ventured into those areas. So I do not regret for a second coming back to Russia. We are dealing in computer design for new materials, for their properties. I remember we talked about Garinin in our conversation. The St. Petersburg Institute. Yes, we did. And now there's a very interesting effect. From time to time, I receive messages from my colleagues living in the West who ask me, so how is it going for you in Russia? Are you not bored? Is it really interesting, comfortable, and convenient to live there? Are there some nice guys living there? I'm saying, yes, it's all great. Maybe I should come back too then. And I tell them that you should come back because all countries are equally beautiful. No country would be superior to another country or inferior to another country. But out of 250 countries, each person has his or her own special country, the one where he or she grew up. So I'm glad that this turned out for me this way, and I hope that for thousands or dozens of thousands of scientists who left Russia are now going to return and work here. It's great that you managed to find your path in life. It's not that easy. And once you left your home country, it's hard to find your way, and it's hard to find your way once you return. And now that you've returned, you have this project that we've thought of and came up with, the Mega Grant project, and we are continuing to implement it with your help, with the help of people like you and your colleagues from all kinds of science and knowledge. And when you said that you and your colleagues do not only care about financing, but you want to have financing guarantees for several years, and you know that we made a decision to prolong those grants with funder sources, with funder investors, and we would do as we were recommended, and we would, over the course of several years, provide this guaranteed financing. But the best thing I liked about meeting you and your colleagues, that you were not only talking about where it's better to work, but how to organize work so that young researchers would have strong ties to the places where they studied and places of their future employment, how to create the proper laboratory conditions, for example, and administrative, and what the organization should be like and the residents should be like, so that they will be able to fully realize their potential. And mega grants are going to be linked to several stages of attracting young specialists as PhD students. And this is the aspect I like the most, that our scientists, young scientists, many of whom have worked abroad and are still working abroad, think about this facet, the future of Russian science and of how it should be organized. So to you and to your colleagues, I'm giving a special thank you for that. As for the young people, it's a very important topic, and I'm glad that you touched upon it. I'm a dreamer in life, and I keep dreaming of various things in life. And something is always going through my mind, and for a very long time I had this dream that would be a certain scheme for Russia to help return the best scientists. It was the case with the leading scientists, but it would be good for the young scientists not to leave, because in some years, in 5 or 10 years, they would become the leading scientists. It would be appropriate to create for them the proper environment so that they would be able to find their own path in life. So all the promising scientists would be able to create their own laboratories to spread their wings and fly further in life. So now we have the opportunity to create those laboratories, and I'm thinking maybe this is the dream-fulfilling machine of sorts. And now I have a dream, and it's a good thing that I'm able to tell you about it, for our scientists to return, and not in dozens and in hundreds, but on the same scale as they left Russia once. At least the most promising ones to return. That would be magical for our culture. And yeah, we need to think about it. We have certain ideas about this. Maybe I'm going to come up as harsh, but nevertheless, Russia wants to return full-fledged scientists who would be useful for us, but not any kind of scientist. But from the point of view of our society, we want everyone to come back. But in terms of developing our science, we need those who would like to move our scientific development further. And where do you teach now? The Skolkovo Institute of Science and Technology. Well, good luck to you. Thank you very much. Now I would move on to the better half of humanity. I would like to give the floor to Rishima Cristal. She's a young artist from Jamaica, the creative part of us.
Hello, Mr. President. It's a pleasure to be here. My mother is going to go crazy when she realizes what I'm doing right now. I did not expect this. I'm just a young Jamaican girl trying to change certain things. I'm an artist. I believe in charity, so I donate my time to recovering cancer patients and terminally ill cancer patients. But when I'm not doing that, I'm focusing on a bigger issue right now in my country, which is climate change. We're being severely affected, especially in the Caribbean region. Jamaica is an island. Our beaches are eroding. The main source of income is tourism. So when we lose our beaches, we lose the product that we are trying to sell to other people to come to our country. We also have an issue with the very active hurricane season that basically demolished Dominica, and our people, well, my people, are constantly living in fear that one of these hurricanes will just come and we'll lose everything. And we see the progression where a hurricane now is 3 times the size of what it used to be 10 years ago. And we are expected to experience severe effects of climate change within the next 10 years, where we're going to lose lands, we're going to lose a lot of structures. I see it already. Growing up, I went to this beach very often. It was my favorite beach, and now it's completely gone. I was looking forward to having that memory so I can show my children, and my children can show their children. So now it becomes a very urgent issue. So I came to Sochi to be among young people, young minds, to find ideas, because I see this problem. The public is not very educated about climate change, and I would like to get my message out there to everybody. I sit on the Executive Council of the Jamaica Climate Change Youth Council, and we are trying our best, but I feel like because of the urgency, I need more ideas. So I came to Sochi to find those ideas, meet with other young people that can network, and because it's a global issue. It's not just Jamaica, it's the entire Caribbean, and we are all going to be affected by this eventually. It's just that it's more urgent in the smaller islands. Thank you.
Вы сейчас
Well, you have touched upon something that we are quite aware here in Russia, and we've been following those tragedies that many Latin American countries have had to face. I mean, those natural disasters, and our heart goes out to you, and we would always be ready to help you and provide our assistance. Our emergency ministry is quite efficient, and upon the behest of foreign governments, we respond and provide aid all the time. With respect to the global issue of the climate change, definitely it has bearing on all the states and nations. As you probably heard not long ago, in Paris they adopted the relevant accords and made decisions to prevent climate from changing. And Russian Federation is supportive of all those commitments, and we assumed commitments on our own to reduce the emissions, and we will abide by them. Let's hope all of that will yield tangible positive effects. Though opinions differ in this respect, and probably you know that, there is a belief that the humankind can do very little to preserve the current environment and atmosphere, because these are in-depth going causes accounting for that, not only related to this planet, but to some extraterrestrial things, and some changes are underway in our galaxy, in the solar system, and that has a bearing on our planet, and there are different views. But I believe that all these are theories, but if we can infer that things are changing for the worse, we should do our best to slow this down and change things for the better. So you are doing the right thing, you've been doing the right thing, and our country is supportive of all those initiatives of nature preservation, and we could exchange opinions with each other and come up with proposals, coming back to our Indian colleague who has been doing virtually the same thing, so you could get in touch with him as well. I would express hope that your stay here will be useful. Thank you. Nicolas Charas, our French friend who has been residing in Russia for several years. He is graduate of Moscow Foreign Affairs University. Hello, Mr. President. I want to say straight away that it's my pleasure and a privilege for me to be attending the festival and today's meeting with you. And as has been mentioned by the colleagues, I'm not Russian national, although people say that I look exactly like a Russian and could pass off as Russian. But still, I decided to tie my life and my destiny with the Russian Federation when I had an opportunity. You know, being a school kid, I developed a fascination for Russia, and I thought that if I ever ended up in Russia, well, I couldn't believe back then that I would start learning the Russian language. So why Russia? It's a big question. I could speculate on that for hours. You know, I have a liking to geopolitics, and I study the role of Russia at the international arena. And there's a host of interesting things in Russia, your vast dimensions, and you know, like geopolitics is namesake for Russia. And I met wonderful people here. I couldn't ever dream of meeting them. After several years in your country, I appear on TV every now and then, and now I'm an international correspondent and anchor for some of the TV channels, and I made up my mind I will sign up to what our colleagues said. I want to devote my life to improving and forging a closer relationship between our initially friendly nations. There is some propaganda, anti-Russian propaganda, hypercritic propaganda, I'd say, against Russia, but Europe is plunged into prejudice. And some people want to indispose Europe and Russia against one another. They want to prevent Russia from becoming stronger, because they believe that will be a huge danger for the American side. So today I would like to toast to Russia, to the great friendship between our nations, and to your great... So let's fill the glasses. Okay. Your mission is quite noble, and your goals are quite noble. But these are quite curious and interesting things that you've been dealing with. Like, what has been happening around globally? 1.2 billion people. In India, 1.5 billion people live in China. The United States has been receiving more and more migrants, and as far as I can guess, the white Christians are becoming a minority. You're saying, surely, but this is a recent change. Like WASPs are now becoming a minority, less than 50%. What am I driving at? The point is that the world is undergoing a streak of change, global change, a step change. You said that we have vast dimensions in Russia. That is true, and we are Eurasia from our western frontiers to eastern borders. From the perspective of our culture and language and the origin of the language, we are Europeans. It's inhabited, this space is inhabited by the holders, the bearers of the culture. And I'm driving to the following, like I'm not saying about any military things, no, but being an important pole or center of influence globally, we should maintain and hold this multi-ethnic nature. We shouldn't be looking back, recalling that we waged war against one another in 1812 and 13, but we should look into the future, how we should be able to build a common future and follow that common path together. In this case, we'll be able to preserve this huge space and its role as an important center and a bridge between Asia and Europe and America and Asia. If that is not to happen, there will be some split in quasi-states that later will stop having any influence. Yeah, you're right. But if we preserve all that, that will help all the humankind. It'll be a great asset to the humankind. And I believe what you are after is quite interesting and very relevant. And I wish you every success in this noble cause of yours. Thank you. Thank you, Simbrasha, our friend from Zimbabwe.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, thank you very much for the invite to Russia. I'll first touch on my project in my company, then come back to a more interesting reason as to why I'm here. I founded a company called Oxygen Africa. We're a solar company, and we specialize in the building, owning, and operation of solar power plants. What we did, probably to answer when you touched about companies basically finding it hard to move towards newer technologies, we believe we've answered that question. So our model basically is what we do is we go to a company and we install the solar solution, but they don't buy it. We basically sell them the power for the next 20 years. Now, why did we do this? It removes the technology risk from the company. It puts the financial burden on our balance sheet, so there's no capital expenditure from the company itself. They are able to predict the energy costs, so basically they can hedge what the energy is going to, what a third of the energy cost is going to be in 20 years, which allows them to plan for their business. Now, it evolved this way because people say I'm a solar company, but what we are is actually an asset management financing company. In that we identified certain companies and said, look, blue chip companies, you obviously want to go green, right? What I'll do is I'll secure your pension fund for you. So your pension fund will invest in my business, and I will then install solar onto your rooftop. So in other words, the money that's supposed to be going to the state utility for electricity comes back onto their balance sheet as returns. I then went to the banks that bank these blue chip companies, and I said, look, will you give me non-recourse finance if I do, for example, a solar solution for Old Mutual, who I'm working with now? And they said yes. So now the bank has got a reason to bank their client, to give new ways of giving finance, but not on the company's balance sheet, but on my balance sheet. Then we created a whole ecosystem that involves the financiers, the insurance, and the clients, whereby everybody establishes value for their business financially, but through renewable energy. That way, we're able to ease the burden of moving to a newer technology. So that's pretty much what we do. Our project is 20 megawatts. It's been recently funded by the Africa Development Bank, and it's considered the largest commitment by a single company to renewable energy in sub-Saharan Africa. So we hope to, by the end of the project, we should have 246 buildings in total that will be powered a third on renewable energy. Back to actually why I was here, it's a funny story in that I actually have a book here that I got when I was 5 years old. Basically, we have a Korean neighbor when I was 5 years old that gave this book to my mom. And I used to love to read it a lot because it's just a pictorial, 13th Festival of Pyongyang, Korea. So when I got the invite to come to the festival, I looked at the logo and I was wondering, where did I see this particular logo? And then when I went home, I found it. And I was like, look, what are the odds that this was my favorite book as a child, but 27 years later, I'm here making an address and presenting what I do to you. So hopefully you'll get to sign it as well. The other aspect I wanted to touch on is I've noticed, like in my country, Russia is sort of coming, but more on the minerals and mining perspective. But I believe the bigger opportunity is in agriculture. And the reason I say this is our sister company actually imports a lot of its raw materials from Russia, your AN, your potash, etc. And they are the second largest manufacturers in the country. And I thought to myself that the future of Africa is actually in agriculture, and possibly Russia has a bigger role to play in forms of Exim finance, exports, as well as probably getting produce out of the country itself. So in a nutshell, this is me.
Я думаю, что вы приехали в правильное место.
I think that you have come to the right place, and it'll be useful for you to refresh your memories. And you read a lot in books when you were a child, and now you'll be able to have some professional interest. In this country, we pay a lot of attention to renewables, and in recent past we lagged behind, but now our solar panels are internationally recognized and are one of the best globally in terms of the life cycle, quality and efficiency. Hence, I just draw your attention to that. You could utilize our solar panels. The technology originally belongs to a private company, a Russian private company. They acquired a Swiss company and they shifted the manufacturing to Russia. They fine-tuned those panels, improved them, and now it is quite competitive. This is first thing. Second, I must say that for African countries, as well as strange as it might seem, not everybody probably is aware that in the high north of our country, we've been using solar panels to, inter alia, be able to heat pipelines, oil pipelines, so that the oil wouldn't freeze inside the pipes in extreme north conditions. Then panels are used to heat oil while it is pumped via the pipelines, and that astonished me when I found that out. Well, just small amounts of sunlight are sufficient to heat up, warm up oil in pipes. So the conventional and unconventional renewable energy sectors are intertwined, and they will go hand in hand for decades to come. That has a bearing on environmental issues as well, like the emission reduction problem. But as of today, in the overall generation, in total generation, coal ranks first, as far as I know. So some people believe that its role has become less important and it's below furnace oil, but I believe that coal ranks first, being ahead of furnace oil and others. But we should keep thinking about how to better use the conventional fossils, like coal can be treated to become an eco-friendly type of energy. Some of the technologies may be quite costly and they need improvements, but when we arrive at new frontiers of academic research and practical application, we will be able to reduce the cost and expand the use of the new technology. You are doing a noble thing, so I wish you every success, sir. Thank you. Do you want to sign the book right now or later? Thank you. I now would like to once again to switch to ladies. Anna Kudryavtseva is a young researcher heading Genome Center. I know her quite well. I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous after this ceremony. I haven't recovered yet, and I don't think I can say something earnest. Well, speaking about what had happened before the award ceremony, well, is of no use, but I will tell you how I arrived where I am. I believe I was born with a strong desire to do medicine and science. When I was a small girl, I wanted to become a doctor and to know how to treat people, but my parents wanted me to go for a musician's career, and I went through different difficult stages to be able to enter a proper university, but that what was a medicine department, but a biology department. But my life is quite a checkered one, and I had marvelous coincidences. It turned out this was the right choice, because like some people with iron nerves should become doctors. Otherwise, they take it too much to heart and fall ill themselves and become ailing, because you put your heart in that. But, once in St. Pete, I studied there at a university. The St. Pete State University provides very good education, and the education I received allows me to feel free everywhere inside the country and attending international conferences. I have a proper background, academic background and research background, and I moved to Moscow and joined the late Sidov laboratory. And after I defended my thesis, I figured where I could go. And I waited for a sign. And, I recall one evening, 10 o'clock, 10 p.m., my son and I returning home, and all of a sudden I bump into a director, and we bumped into once another, and he told me that, there was a contract to launch a new piece of equipment, medical equipment, and there is no specialist, no professional to put that into operation. Do happen to know a proper person, but I had just graduated on that. And you stretched out your arms and said, yeah. I said I would be glad and to tackle that, because I just graduated from that institute, from that university. He gave me a go-ahead, saying, okay, you will have a go with that, because our molecular biology institute is a very formidable establishment headed by Mr. Makarov. He is supportive of young researchers, but I was accepted right after I defended the thesis, and we put that piece of equipment into operation, and I obtained a proper laboratory of my own. There was a milestone in my life, and I worked hard, and at next stage of my life, I received an award. Why is it so important for me? It is a new step forward. I revisited my academic and research views in the course of time. I joined the Herzen Institute with real people, practitioners, and I started understanding how it all happened in real life. In this country, researchers study cancers, and doctors do something else in hospitals and clinics, and they don't overlap, and they don't know a lot about each other and each other's activities. The researchers don't know what doctors need, and when I started dealing with doctors, I all of a sudden grasped what I needed to do in my life, and the next stage was the award winning, and afterwards a lot of phone calls followed from people that needed help. But I'm no doctor. I can't help them. when I told them, you know, we are researchers, we've been doing some basic research. We did a lot to make headway, but this is science. In future, we will be able to do things, and we're now laying a solid foundation. But people asked, but can it help me in some way? It cannot, I responded, and it all made me so sad. And I all of a sudden developed a desire to do some practical things. So I will not drop fundamental basic science altogether, but I also want to go into practice and become a practitioner as well. And I selected several projects to participate in them. And I believe it's very important that media, mass media, would make the broader public aware that the basic science is a foundation. And now the researchers and scientists are once again becoming respected. So I have 3 major projects. 2 of them are related to a very important thing for this country. In this country, we have strong and intelligent people, but we've been lagging behind with respect to medications, and lots of cancer patients suffer from difficulties. And for them, well, you know, currently, all them things are very hard to deploy and implement, because we don't have the proper legislation in place, and we should prepare the broader public, because not everybody can afford these new technologies. We need the governmental support for that, subsidies, and the genetic research should also be pursued. And like being a fellow researcher at the Hudson University, I know that they have a team, and I want to carry that project forward so that it is my contribution, so that I would do something practical for people. You know, it has an effect on very many other sectors and areas, like researchers in labs know for sure what legal changes should follow. Well, they probably are aware of what the issues and problems are, and we know how to do business, but we don't have the proper expertise in lawmaking and legal things. And like explaining it to researchers is indeed quite hard. Look, you have always been lucky in life. You first won and garnered a right to practice biology instead of music. Then you defended a thesis. Then you met the director, and now you're sitting next to Deputy Head of Presidential Staff Kiriyenko. Just approach him, and he would kind of help you in your lawmaking efforts and initiatives, and you will not have to drop your basic and other applied research. Thank you, thank you.
And yes, Daniel Bell, a young teacher from the US. Over to you, Daniel.
Well, first off, thank you very much, Mr. President, for hosting us tonight, and if you will permit me, a happy belated birthday to you. Thank you also to the organizers for starting this event. My time here actually began 3 days ago in Moscow with the parade, and where 300 more or less other students my age from all over the world gathered and began to build relationships and get to know each other. And the opportunity that this event has presented is to examine these political problems, to examine these deep global problems from a distinctly non-political lens, a human lens, to examine the human universal experiences that are at the common core of all that we do. And in that time, at this parade, I met students from Iran, Iraq, Syria, intelligent, driven young people who are my age and who care about their countries and who care about their respective problems. And in that moment, you realize and you see more clearly than anything else that these distinctions we draw between ourselves and these distinctions, these overcomplications, these abstractions that we create around these problems are just that. And what lies there and what's really important is the human heart and the experience. You mentioned our healthcare debate in the United States. I believe that debate is at its worst when we don't realize the human element, the human effect, that people's lives are what's there, and we use instead the easy political thing to abstract and confuse. And so for me, language and teaching and education are means to that. They're a shortcut and a way to touch the deepest, most intimate things that we feel as human beings, our self-identities, who we are. And it's, as I prepare to go to Brazil to teach English, that is what I hope to do. That is what I've experienced through learning languages. That is what I've experienced through being here, is that even knowing one word is just a shortcut straight to who a person is and how they think. This festival offers the opportunity, like I said, to really just engage with people and not different nationalities. And I've done that, and I hope to continue to do that in all these different countries and people. This is my first time in Russia, and I've gotten to meet a lot of driven, young Russian people who are my age and who care about their country and who care about these problems and who care about the world that they live in. And what I sincerely believe is that I do not see them as my rivals. I hope that they succeed, because we need intelligent, young, driven people to tackle these issues, whether it's curing cancer, climate change, cleaning our environment. To paraphrase Aimé Césaire, no one people, no one nation, no one region of this world has a monopoly on answers, has a monopoly on solutions. And to tackle these things, we need to be constantly connected to each other and driven, and not seeing it, and not getting distracted by the things that are very, very easy to look at, and realizing that ultimately these problems affect all of us, and they're interconnected, and we are interconnected as members of this planet. And the West does not start in Los Angeles and end in St. Petersburg. We draw these lines, and events like this give us the opportunity to see that they're just lines, and what's behind them is human lives. And so again, I thank you very much for hosting us and for giving me the opportunity to be here today.
Well, мне кажется, что вы несколько вещей очень важных сказали.
I believe that you mentioned a few very important points. First of all, you said there's no monopoly to promote your own vision of the world in a unilateral way. And this is very true, because the world is quite diverse, and we need to respect this diversity. This is fully in line with my own views to the aspects that you raised today. And the second thing, and I deem it very important, and you also underscored that we need to stop looking at each other as rivals, as competitors. I'm not sure that it is possible on the inter-country level, but I guess we should aspire to do just that. We should see each other as partners. So my neighbor to the left of me mentioned just that. And I believe that this is a very important point that stands in the way of building the relationships between the countries, because we see each other as rivals. And instead of cooperating to resolve our common global issues, we are using a great part of our resources to resolve secondary issues. We are now spending resources to have this rivalry and to win. But this does not always lead to attaining positive results for both the winners and the losers. So this is, again, a very delicate area that might be utopia of sorts, because the nature is submerged in this kind of rivalry, and the society is again very competitive. But in any way, we should not let this competitive, these rivalries, move to a hostile stage, move towards a conflict and a war. And we should really strengthen the second track, the track of partnership, to resolve all our global issues. And if we be able to do that, that would benefit all of us. Thank you. Mr. President, we are ready now to conclude because this conversation can go on forever. As you can see, all the participants are very well prepared and are very interesting interlocutors. Thank you very much for this meeting. We would not like to let you go without taking a photo together because all those present really asked for it. So once again, I would like to thank everybody for the conversation we had today and for coming here in Russia to our country. And now I hope that you would leave with a positive spirit and now enriched with friendly ties. Thank you very much. Thank you.